I feel like I'm a little late to be doing a 2024 end of year favorites video, but I was going through some life stuff in December. You guys know that already, but I still really wanted to do this video and just talk about my favorite makeup that launched in 2024. And I also want to talk about older products that became favorites in 2024. So two separate categories today, but I still really wanted to do this video and just talk about my favorite makeup of 2024. I'm always really particular with the products that I choose to put in my favorites videos because I don't just want to pick like the good makeup that launched. I want to pick the products that are actual favorites and products I'm going to be bringing into the new year with me. I am wearing a lot of these products on my face today, so you're going to kind of see them in action as I'm talking about them. But before we dive into my favorites, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, which is Ana Luisa. You guys already know by now that I love Ana Luisa jewelry. I've been working with them for a few years now at this point, and pretty much every day I'm wearing at least one piece from them. They carry all jewelry, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and rings. All of their pieces are so high quality. They're long lasting, hypoallergenic, and water resistant. I wear a lot of my jewelry in the gym, also in the shower if I'm just too lazy to take it off, and I've never had any kind of tarnishing. Like, I really put their pieces to the test and I've never had any issues with their quality. Like, I have had this necklace from them for probably 2 years now and it has not discolored at all or even like turned my skin green, because we all know that cheap jewelry can do that. But I wanted to show you the two newest pieces in my collection, and they are both earrings. First are the ones that I'm wearing right now. These are the Scarlet two-tone, and I think the style is so cute. I love the two tones where you get the mixed metals with the gold and the silver. I love that kind of look because even my second piercing right here is rose gold, so I love just mixing the metals together. I also love that you kind of get a 2-for-1 with this earring, where it's 2 hoops but just, you know, 1 earring, and it kind of makes it look like you have a second piercing but you really don't. I just think it's a really fun kind of edgy style. And then I just put in the second style. These are the Ashley Pearl Huggy hoops. I think these are the cutest little huggy hoops. I love the style of a huggy where it just kind of wraps around your earlobe, and I love the little pearls on this because I have a necklace that I like to wear that has a little bit of pearls on it, so they just go so well together. But I just think it looks so cute and small and dainty, and I also think it would look really good in the second hole as well. Ana Luisa's designs start at $39, and the more you buy, the more you save. They also have free US shipping and a 2-year warranty on all of their products. They're also doing a New Year's sale right now, so if you want to check out any of their pieces, I'll leave a link down below for you. And then I'll also list and link the 2 earrings that I just mentioned. Thank you so much to Ana Luisa for continuing to partner with me on my channel because I really do love their pieces. But let's go ahead and get started on my 2024 makeup favorites. So I'm going to start with the makeup that actually launched in 2024, and I want to go in order of application just because that makes the most sense to me. But my favorite foundation launch was definitely the Fenty Beauty Soft Lit Foundation. I was a little late to the party on this foundation, but I should have known that I would love it because Kelly Gooch was raving about it, and Kelly and I have a very similar makeup taste, so when I saw her raving about it, I was like, ooh, I'll probably like that, but I just wasn't in the mood to buy a new foundation when this launched. But I actually ended up receiving this in PR in the second half of the year, and once I tried it, I was totally hooked. This foundation gives you a medium coverage, it is hydrating and long wearing. On the days where my skin is a bit more dry, for me that's more in the first half of my cycle, this foundation is the one that I grab for because it's hydrating and it has the most beautiful soft lit glow to it. Like, the name is so accurate. It's such a good description of it. They do claim it's a natural finish, but I think it's a little bit more on the radiant side, but it's definitely not too glowy. And for me, it also just blends seamlessly into my skin. Like, I really love applying this product because it just really softly covers everything up without looking too heavy. The glow it gives is really, really pretty, but I do tend to set my face with powder, so after I do, you know, my entire makeup routine, my base is pretty matte. But I think if you're someone that has dry skin, you would really like this. If you have oily skin, I think it might be too glowy for you. I also ended up liking it so much, the one that I got in PR, that I ended up buying a lighter shade, and that's how you know when I truly love a foundation, if I feel like I need to have it in 2 shades. I did something different with my bangs today. If it looks stupid, don't tell me. I'm just trying different hairstyles. New year, new me, right? Next product is technically not a new product, but it is a new shade extension, and that is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Shaping Stick, specifically in the shade Fair. Now in 2024, I kind of stopped self-tanning a lot, really towards the end of the year. Once it hit October last year, I was kind of just sick of self-tanning altogether, so I really took a break from it, and I really tried to embrace my natural pale skin. I do have a slight tan on right now, so like I'm normally even fairer than this, and I would always have such a hard time finding a contour shade, even a bronzer shade. Like, everything would just pull too warm, but this fair shade is so perfect if you have fair skin. You'll see me apply today, and it is a little bit too light for the subtle tan that I have on right now, but it still gave me a pretty good contour and shadow, but it definitely works the best when I have absolutely no tan. I just find this is so easy to apply. It glides right on the skin, and it's very easy to blend out. The one thing I don't love about this is just that it's double-ended, and it has a brush on the other end, but I never use use like a built-in brush or sponge that comes with the product. It also has these like weird bumps on it, and I just don't think this does a good job at all. For my brush, I've been using something smaller and rounder. This is the new BK Beauty 116 brush, and this has been perfect for all of my cream products. I'm getting sidetracked, but this really is the perfect shape to get around the cheekbone, to contour, even do my bronzer up on my forehead. But anyways, if you have fair skin and you struggle finding a good contour shade, check out this in the shade Fair. I have a few blush favorites, and I'm not surprised that there's more than one because this really was a year that I just kind of fell in love with blush and really fell in love with layering and blending my blushes together. Like nowadays, I'm usually wearing at least 2 blushes on my face at all times. But my number one blush, and I also think probably my favorite launch of 2024, are the Huda Beauty blush filters. These blushes have a very unique formula and just like packaging and style overall, and they're very different than anything else I have in my collection. They are so lightweight, blend out beautifully, they are not overly pigmented like the Rare Beauty blushes, but they're also buildable, so you can do more and more layers if you want even more pigment. They can also be worn under powder or over powder, which is pretty rare for a cream blush to work over a powder, and they just have such a stunning radiant finish. For today's look, I actually started out with their newest shade that I just got in PR. It's called Ube Cream, and I was really excited about this because it looks like this gorgeous kind of lilac, soft purple, little bit of pink blush, but a very, very light shade. So I started with this blush first just to kind of see how it looks because this really was my first time wearing this shade, and I thought it was a little bit too light. I definitely wanted something a little bit deeper, so I added the shade Strawberry Cream on top, which is probably my most used one. I also think this would be my most recommended shade because I think it really would work for a variety of skin tones. So I popped this more on the apple of my cheek just to give even more of a blushy flush, and I thought it looked so pretty. I still have more to say about these blushes. I really do love them. My second most used shade is definitely Cotton Candy, and the way I use this is the same way that I applied the second layer of Ube Cream today. So because this Cotton Candy shade is so light, I use this one more as kind of blending my blush into my concealer just to really smooth out this area, and so there's not a harsh line between my blush and concealer, right? So that's what I normally use Cotton Candy for, but today I just wanted to try it with Ube Cream since I was using it today. And I actually really liked how this looked as that kind of step with more of that kind of blending shade. So I definitely think that's how I'm going to use this shade in the future. But also, I just love the packaging of these. I think these are just so freaking cute. Like, I want to eat them. And what I also appreciate is that you know exactly what color you're getting just looking at the packaging. I hate having to open up compacts like when they all look the same to try to find the one blush shade that I'm looking for, but I like if I'm just looking in my drawers, I see these and I'm like, perfect, I know exactly what I'm grabbing. And we haven't even talked about the scent yet. These smell absolutely amazing, kind of like a candy, I think, but it doesn't linger very long. It does go away. You really only smell it like if you're doing this. But honestly, 10 out of 10 product for me. I hope she releases a million more shades. Next blush I want to talk about is another shade extension that came out this year, and this is the Patrick Ta blush in the shade Not Too Much. I absolutely fell in love with this shade this year. This was probably my most used blush aside from the Huda Beauty ones, and I've used it so much that I already have pan in the cream up here. And this shade launched in the spring, so I haven't even had this a full year yet, but I already have pan. Like, that just goes to show how much I truly do use this. I've raved about this blush in so many of my videos, but this is a soft rosy taupe shade, and I find that it just goes with any look that I'm doing. And I also think it's a good value too because you are getting a cream and powder in here. I usually like to do Patrick's method where you're layering them together, and it just gives you the most beautiful cheek. I know that he posted he's launching a few more shades in the next coming weeks or so. I know there's a red, and there's also one shade, I want to say it's called like She Seductive, that is calling my name. It looks kind of similar to this, and it looks like in the color family that I would like. So I'm very, very tempted to buy that, but I also want to do kind of a no buy for the next couple months, which I will do a video on very soon. But this blush is just perfect to me. Last for blushes that launched this year, I wanted to give a shout out to the NYX Buttermelt blushes. These were honestly such a good launch from NYX, and I found myself using them so much in the summer. Starting with the packaging, kind of same thing with the Huda Beauty. When I grab these, I pretty much know exactly what shade I'm gonna get. My most used one out of the few that I have is Butta Together. I use this one so much in my videos in the summer, and then I am wearing this as my powder blush today. I also like that these aren't a completely matte blush. They do have a really soft sheen to them that's really pretty, but be warned, these are pretty pigmented, so you really don't need a lot on your brush when you're picking it up. But I did want to give a shout out to a blush brush that I've been loving recently, and it is the BK Beauty 104. Now honestly, this is a pretty big brush, but I like it a lot for blush because I like to place blush literally all over my face. I mean, you'll see me apply it here, but I really do bring my blush from my apples, my cheeks, up towards my temples, and then because this brush has a little bit of a tip to it, kind of comes to a little subtle point here, I like to kind of place the blush on the outer part of my eye and just really blush up the outer half of my face. For some people it might be a lot, but I just like playing with blush. sue me. So yeah, I really enjoyed the buttermelt blushes this year, and then also the buttermelt bronzers wanted to give just a little shout out to. Now personally for me, I do like the blushes better than the bronzers. I do have 2 shades of the bronzers that I bought myself this year, but for me, I couldn't really find a shade that worked for me, and I have the lightest shade and the second lightest shade, and they're both still too dark for my skin tone. I do think the bronzers are a good product. I just couldn't find a shade that was perfect for me, but I really do like the idea of these shades where they do lean a little bit more rosy. I did use a little bit of the lightest shade today on my face, and it works if I'm using a pretty light hand. I just wish there was like 1 shade lighter than this, and I think that would have been perfect for my skin tone. But they're still a good product, and I think they're $10, which is a pretty good price for a blush and bronzer. I am going to do a video of ranking all the palettes that I tried in 2024, but if I had to tell you my favorite palette launch of 2024, it has to go to the Get Stoned palette. If you guys watch my videos, you know that I fell in love with this palette this last year, and I just cannot stop talking about it. So this palette launched in January, but I bought it in February because I saw on TikTok and I saw these swatches of these like gorgeous shimmery metallic shades, and I was like, what are those shadows? And once I saw it was from Get Stoned, I was like, oh, I have to have this because I've tried their rhinestones before, and they're beautiful rhinestones. They have like stick-on ones now as well. And I was just so excited to find a palette like this that has all of these gorgeous shimmer shades. So I use this palette more as a companion palette that I just pair maybe 1 shade or 2 with some matte shadows, typically the Patrick Ta palette, which I did use today. I have both of these on my eyes. My most used shades from this palette are Champagne and Old Money, which are both on my eyes today. Like, just look at those. They're just the prettiest eyeshadows in the world. They go on freaking beautifully. Look at that reflect they have, and I just love the sparkle on the eyes. So this shade Champagne right here, I have to give the title of my most used shadow in 2024. Pretty much any special occasion I had, I went to a few weddings, or if I just wanted to be glam and dolled up, I was popping this shade on my lid. It's literally just the perfect shimmer eye shade for me. And I was so sad to hit pan on that shade that I ended up buying a second palette during Black Friday because it was on a little bit of a discount, and I just really don't want to be without that shadow, straight up. I'm normally not one to buy backups, especially of an eyeshadow palette, but I just love that shadow so much. I pretty much just use the neutral shades in this palette. I have tried to use the green, gold, and red right here, but they're definitely my least used. And unfortunately, this palette is currently out of stock. I don't know when it's going to be restocked or if it's going to be restocked, but I really hope they do. So this was definitely my #1 palette of 2024. But if I had to pick a second favorite palette, I would give it to the Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette. Now, I'm not surprised this made it in my top favorites because I tend to be a really big fan of her mega palettes, but sadly, this is the last one. So like that kind of sucks, but I'm happy that I love this one. I've been leaving this palette on my desk, and I find that I'm always grabbing maybe 1 or 2 shadows out of this to complete an eye look. I've done a lot of like everyday looks recently where I'm grabbing like this shade or this one, popping that all over my lid, and then maybe grabbing one of the shimmers in here, popping that on top, or my Get Stoned shimmers, and calling it good. And then I like these 2 darker shades in here to use as liner or kind of smoking things out. And I like that it's not a complete true matte black shade. There definitely is some brown and some coolness in this shadow. And then there's also good crease shades right here, something more cool toned, a little bit pink, a little bit more peachy orange, a good blending shade. Oh, and then my first look with this palette, I used this shimmer right here, and it was absolutely stunning. The only shade I don't like in this palette is this like glittery, chunky shade. That's like the only one I don't use, but everything else I think is great. And I just like the more kind of softer tones in this palette. That really is what I've been doing nowadays. I have 2 lip products that are definitely favorites of 2024, starting with the Too Faced Kissing Jelly Glosses. Now, honestly, when I got this product in PR when it launched, I did not think I was gonna like it that much, but you can see I am almost out of this shade right here. This one is Raspberry, clearly my most used, and I only have these 2, but I like to use this a few ways. Sometimes I'll put it on in the very beginning of my makeup look, which is just what I did today, just to give my lips some hydration as I'm doing my makeup, and they're gonna be nice and hydrated by the time I'm finished with my makeup. Or I'll just kind of pop it on, and it just gives like a very, very subtle wash of color, but the scent is absolutely delicious, and they all have a different scent. So like I said, Raspberry is my most used, and then the other one I have is Sour Watermelon, and it smells exactly what you think sour watermelon would smell like. Oh, and I like how sheer these are. You're really not getting too much color, but just a very subtle amount. That one's Raspberry and Watermelon. Yeah, super subtle hint of color, but I really just love the juiciness that it gives my lips. Again, it is very rare for me to like hit pan on a product, to even finish a product, so the fact that I'm almost done with this lip product and I've had it for less than a year like speaks volumes. And then my other favorite lip product of 2024 are the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb Sticks. I have two shades that I like and I tend to mix them together, which is what I did today. I have Fenty Glow and Blazed Donut. This one is Fenty Glow. It's a little bit warmer, and then Blazed Donut is a bit lighter, a bit more pink in there. But I like that these are creamy, they have a shine, they're easy to apply. I don't like lip products that you really have to fuss with to make them work. And I just like to kind of tap these on my lips to get that pigment and shine, and then just blend it out with my finger. So you can definitely swipe it on if you want more full pigment, but again, I like a softer lip look. Just the tapping and kind of blotting it out works for me. And then same thing with the packaging. As I've been saying, I love just grabbing these products. I know exactly what shade I'm gonna get. I don't have to be opening up caps or reading the shade names or anything. Clearly noticing a trend with my packaging preferences. I also wanted to mention a few fragrances just because I feel like fragrance was so popular this year and it's just only gaining popularity. And I've kind of leaned into that fragrance trend a little bit. I've been having some fun at trying some new scents and I love the ones that I found. So in 2024, I decided I want to smell like a vanilla bitch. And I'm sure we all heard about Phlur Vanilla Skin that came out, and yes, I love it. I'm obsessed. I started with the body mist and I'm honestly so surprised that I don't have less of this because I use this so frequently. Like, I wear it to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. When I get ready in the morning, I spray this on. Like, this is lasting me a really long time, so I'm very happy with that. I forgot to bring it up here, but my favorite lotion that I found this year, and I'm normally not a body lotion lover, is the EOS Vanilla Cashmere scent. Layer that lotion on, pop on Phlur Vanilla Cream, and you're gonna smell so yummy and delicious. It is my favorite combo right now, and it actually stays on me throughout the day. And then my skin is nice and hydrated from the lotion, and because I have the lotion, like, this just kind of sticks better overall. Such a good combo. So when they released Vanilla Skin as a perfume, I said, yes, please, I have to try that. So I just bought the little travel size spray. I'm definitely not one to buy a full bottle of perfume, especially if I've never like tried it or smelled it before. So I'm always buying the travel sizes, but I always think it's a good amount. So good. These just smell freaking delicious. The hype is real. I know they have a deodorant in the Vanilla Skin scent, and I'm very tempted to try that as well and just have everything Vanilla Skin. I want like a body wash. Give me everything Vanilla Skin. And then because I love this one so much, once Heavy Cream came out, I was very tempted to buy this at first, and I held off for a while. This was a very planned out purchase. I saw it launched and I stopped myself. I wanted to buy it, but I was like, you know, let me put it on my want to buy list and maybe revisit it in a few weeks. And I just could not stop thinking about the smell. I wanted to have it and try it so bad, and I really do love this one as well. It's very different than anything I've ever smelled before, and honestly, I suck at describing fragrances. So the base of this one is vanilla mousse, salted caramel, whipped cream. The heart is jasmine blossom, coconut cream, and then the top note is lemon sugar, marshmallow, and orange. You know, honestly, if I'm thinking about those scents, I kind of do get a little bit of everything in here, but I definitely get a lot of the marshmallow, vanilla mousse, salted caramel, whipped cream. Like, that's what I get from it. And just like a hint of the lemon sugar and orange. This one I definitely need to layer though, because it doesn't last very long on its own, so I'll usually wear this one on top of the Vanilla Skin perfume. But yeah, if you've been seeing the Phlur hype, I believe the hype is real, and they have some really good scents. So those are all my favorite products that launched in 2024. Now I just have a handful of products that launched in previous years. Some of them are actually a couple years old, but they became a favorite and a staple for me this year. Starting with the bareMinerals highlighting blush, specifically in the shade Rose Glow. I'm pretty sure I talked about this in my 2023 favorites, but it was still a top favorite for me all throughout 2024. They call this a highlighting blush, and I think that is the most perfect name for this because it really does act kind of as a highlighter, but a little bit of a blush as well because it does have that pinkiness to it. So how I like to use this is after I do all the layers of my cream blush I want to do, maybe the powder blush I'm going to wear, I use this as kind of like a last step. And I use this to add a little bit of a glow to my cheekbones, but it also just kind of helps merge like my under eye powder into my blush to give me a softer blend on my cheek. See, I've talked a lot about like the blend on my cheek. That's something I really cared about this year, was like, how is my cheek blend? Again, I used to care so much about like my eyeshadow blend, you know, layering different matte eyeshadow shades in your crease to get a good blend. But now for me, it's all about layering blushes to get that blend. Yeah, so this is kind of the bridge in between my under eye powder and my blush, but it still adds a little bit of a glow, so it looks like a highlighter, but it's not super glowy like your typical highlighters. So this is definitely just a staple product in my collection, and I'm glad that it's still a favorite. Also in 2024, I finally understood the hype of the Huda Beauty Loose Easy Bake Powder. I don't know what took me so long to finally dive in and try this powder, because I've heard so many people talk about it. Honestly, it might have been Kelly Gooch again. Again, Kelly and I have such similar preferences, and I remember seeing her rave about this powder, so I bought this mini myself this year just to try it out. And straight up, I hate the packaging of the mini. Honestly, if you want to try this, just get the full size, because the way it comes, you have to twist off the cap like this, and then there's a weird sponge here that I ripped off completely. And for me, you kind of have to find something to pour this powder into. So if you're going to take a powder puff, and try to get enough powder on your puff, you can't really do it with this kind of applicator. It's going to be very uneven and kind of clumpy. So I ended up just pouring this powder into another powder container that I finished. This used to be the Hourglass Veil powder, but now it's just Huda Beauty Pound Cake in here. Now this is much easier for me to actually dip my sponge into, but oh my gosh, the powder itself just gives me the most flawless blurred finish. It is that good. Of course, I'm going to insert the clips of me applying it today, but this just smooths out my under eyes perfectly. It gets rid of all of my shine. This is a pretty mattifying powder, and I think if you have dry skin, this might be a little bit too much for you, but I really feel like this powder just gives me the most flawless base, and on my skin, it doesn't look too heavy. And if it ever does get a little heavy, maybe a little cakey, I just add a little bit of my Charlotte Tilbury setting spray on top, and that just kind of gets rid of the powdery look. But this has definitely become my favorite powder in my collection overall. I feel like my search for the perfect loose powder is over because I found it. And I was so happy when I got the Ube collection from Huda and PR. They sent over a full-size pound cake, which I was ready to buy myself. I needed a new one. So I'm so happy to have a full size of this. I am gonna be set. I do not need to buy any more powders for the foreseeable future. Next is a liner that has been out for so many years. I've seen people talk about it so many times, but I just never bought it myself. I ended up receiving it in PR, and I was like, okay, cool. I finally get to try this liner, and I'm in love. It is the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Endless Cacao. So what I love about this is the shade. It is the most perfect cool tone shade that I use on my eyes and my lips. Let's start with the eyes. So I did use this as a tiny bit of liner today. I love it under the lower lash line to add a little bit of a shadow or do a tiny flick of a wing. It's just very subtle and just kind of gives a contour to my eye almost. And then it is easy to smudge out after you apply it, but once it's dried down, it's gonna stay in place. And then I also love this as a lip liner too, because on me and my skin tone, so many lip products can just pull way too warm, orange, and peachy, and I just don't like that look. So I will pair pretty much any lip product with this lip liner. But I'm also not one of those people that is in love with lip liner. It's really not one of my favorite products. I kind of dread lining my lips because sometimes it just looks like it's a bit too much on me. So for me, when I use lip liner, I kind of like to use it more as just a contour and really place it in the areas that I need it. So I'll use it to add a bit of color to the outer corners of my lips, also right in the center of my bottom lip, maybe a little bit on my cupid's bow, but I never really line my entire lip because I just feel like it's too much on myself. Yeah, I think that's how I like to use it, pretty much as a contour for my eyes and lips. I've even used this as a little nose contour before because it's a little pencil, so it was kind of perfect for doing that, and it blends out right away. I'm honestly so glad that I finally used this product and found it this year. Two more products to talk about. Thank you if you're still here, but another product that was a favorite in 2023 that really carried over throughout 2024 are the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blushes. Honestly, I think these are some of my favorite blushes in my collection, and I want to say they're $6 a piece, maybe less, I don't know. This is my most used shade by far. This is Pink Flush, and it just has such a pretty pink glow to it. And these have a really nice sheen to them as well. Again, I don't like when a blush is too matte or too glittery. This one's just kind of right in the middle with the soft sheen. And I just found myself continuing to reach for these blushes throughout the entire year. Even a couple months ago, I discovered the shade Goldie Cassis, which looks like such a scary purple blush, but for me, when I'm so fair and cool toned, it's actually kind of the perfect cool tone blush. This is what it looks like. Yeah, it's so pretty, and this is just such a unique color for me, and I just love the formula. If you were to ask me, do I like the Essence ones more or the NYX ones more? Definitely the Essence. The last product that really became a huge staple for me in 2024 is the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3 palette. I can't remember if I bought this at the end of 2022 or end of 2023, but either way, kind of like I mentioned earlier, in any look where I just knew I wanted to grab some neutral matte brown shadows, this is exactly what I grabbed for. I hit pan in this shade this year. This is my most used crease shade by far. I mostly get use out of the bottom row right here just because I prefer the more cool tone shades, but if I'm in the mood to do something a bit warmer, I totally can. I love that there's a matte white, a matte black. You have two creams in here as well that you can use as a liner, or even like a cream shadow base for a smoky eye. It's really just such a solid staple neutral palette in my collection. The formula is very creamy and pigmented as well, so like you really don't need a lot of shadow when you go to use this palette. But I am curious to see if this year in 2025, if this palette will be replaced by the Natasha Denona Mini Eye Sculpt palette. Now this palette came out December 24th, so this cannot be a 2024 favorite, but I'm calling it now, this might be a 2025 favorite. But like I just said, I tend to use this bottom row more of this palette, and this mini palette kind of has everything I need in it. I have done 2 videos with this already if you want to see those, so I don't know if this one will take over, but if we're talking about 2024 favorites, this palette for sure. All right, so that is going to wrap up my 2024 makeup favorites. I would love to know what your favorites are. Did we have any similar ones? I also want to give another thank you to Louisa for sponsoring the beginning portion of this video. So again, if you want to check out any of their pieces, I'll leave a link down below for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.